Some of y'all who probably just started watching my videos are asking yourselves and wondering exactly who am I? What is it that I do exactly? And how did I get so bold to be able to so openly, confidently, comfortably share myself and who it is that I am with the world when I speak on the very true, very necessary topics that I decide to speak on. But before I get into that, I do just want to give a quick shout out to everybody who showed up for me this past week and joined me on the 5-day fast for my breakthrough. Listen, I appreciate y'all showing up and supporting me. I felt the love, I felt the support. I know God saw it, so thank y'all. Thank y'all for that. But so yeah, who am I? What exactly is it that I do? And how did I get to be so bold in tackling these topics that are necessary to tackle? And also topics that are somewhat viewed by a lot of people as taboo topics that most people would rather shy away from and ignore the problems rather than to confront them head on, so the tough problems can be the tough problems of the world that is, can be identified, dissected, explained, and better understood by more people who are actually capable of understanding tough problems, because everybody doesn't have the capacity. And so the problem can at least be addressed and made clear, if not solved to some degree, through a wider, better understanding by more people. Again, people who are capable of such understanding. I hesitate to say fully solved because no problem is ever fully solved, but it still takes people with courage to call it out, address it, clarify it, and keep it pushing no matter the outcome, knowing that you did your part by doing your best. And that's all anybody could ever ask for, and all you could ask for of yourself. So who is Vinny Williams? I'm actually a lot of things. But who I am in this particular period of my life, as it pertains to my goals and the visions for this YouTube channel, I'm actually wearing 4 hats. Hat number 1, I am the creator of the H&R movement and culture. The H&R stands for the hottest new revolution, which is a movement and culture all its own. We don't fall into the same categories as the dominant modern day cultures. We are not hip hop culture. We from the streets, but we not the street culture. It's a lot of subcultures that fall underneath the wider umbrella of global popular culture, or a lot of people call it short, pop culture. But I see the H&R not as a subculture, but honestly as a super culture. And rather than falling underneath the umbrella of global pop culture, our goal is to hopefully inspire many cultures globally to at least understand and acknowledge, if not to adopt, our very simple, spiritually freeing outlook on life and of the world. Meaning that this outlook frees people's spirits in order for them to feel supported and justified in showing up in their own lives in such a way that guarantees more fulfillment and satisfaction out of their life. The motto that drives the H&R culture and our outlook on life is very cut and dry and straight to the point. It goes as follows: live your life and love the life you live, regardless of who you piss off in the process. And that's it. That's the motto. And the underlying message of our motto is to empower people to gain the courage to show up in this world unapologetically as themselves, whoever and whatever that looks like for you, rather than feeling like you need to hide who you are or any aspects about yourself that make you you, just to fit in or to get by in a world full of many people who made a decision to play life small and never reach their full potential while they're alive here on earth out of a fear of standing out, not fitting in, or being judged and criticized by other people who are also victims of believing that life should be lived with restrictions, and basically just damn the idea of people living in such a way where they can experience and learn about the world by showing up in it every day with their own unique perspectives in order to have a better chance at reaching their full potential in this lifetime. As long as in living your H&R life, you are not out here intentionally hurting other people and animals, because that's not cool. That's just weird, basically. And if you are just out here harming other lives, like I recommend therapy. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm honestly saying that as an advocate and a supporter of mental health. Because if that's your motivation, then that's not H&R. That's not what we stand on, and that's not what we condone. So live your life and love the life that you live without hurting other people and hurting other animals and other life. So yeah, moving on. The H&R is about being an individual. So everybody's H&R life will look different from the next person's. And of course, for anybody who decides to own what makes them different and to live and show up in life in a way where you don't suppress parts of yourself to fit in to other people's narratives of what's normal, which takes courage. But in doing that, you will almost surely have haters and people who judge you at first. But none of that compares to having an opportunity of reaching your full potential in life and leaving this life feeling fulfilled on that last day, whenever that happens to be, hopefully many years into the future from today. But that's my take on it. That's what the H&R movement and culture is. And that's honestly how God intended for us to live, freely and authentically. Who else is Vinny Williams? Well, in my personal H&R life, in a context of, like I said, what's relevant and makes sense for me to share and keeping in line with my vision and goals for this YouTube channel, because I'm a lot more things, but in keeping in line with this visual, this YouTube channel is about I mainly wear 3 more hats in addition to what I just explained as the creator with the H&R movement and culture. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the founder of the Fluid community. And I'm a prophet of God. And yes, our God, our Father who art in heaven, that God. And I'm going to break each of those down in that order. So first off, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a businessman. What's the difference, Vinny? Even though being an entrepreneur and starting a business means that you engage in business practices and endeavors, a businessman can buy a business that already exists. A businessman can own a franchise in a business that already exists, like a McDonald's, Burger King, Steak and Shake. The list goes on and on. There's a lot of companies out here that you can franchise into and become a businessman. A businessman can also be a high-ranking executive for another person's company that already exists. And an entrepreneur thinks of an idea for a company that doesn't already exist. It usually starts with a person finding a way to solve a problem that they experience frequently themselves, that they have a hunch that other people might have that same problem. So they start what's called a startup, where they learn what they need to learn and start gaining knowledge through real world experience of turning that idea into a product they can sell to people who also experience that same problem that they created that solution for, with the goal of building their business large enough and successful enough to sell it one day for tens of millions and up to billions of dollars if the product you created is valuable enough to enough people to justify the number. As an entrepreneur, you would typically end up selling your business to a businessman. And either finding an idea for another business to create, or choosing to retire with a fat check, never having to work another day in your life. If you choose not to, or many entrepreneurs take the road of using the time and money freedom that you now have from selling the company to get involved with philanthropy and helping other people and causes and missions in the world that means something to you. Or the other route, if your company turns out to be so valuable to people that they can keep using whatever it is that you created over and over again and feeling equally satisfied with the value they receive every single time they use it, to where there is no foreseen expiration date of when people will get tired of using your product and receiving the value that they get from it. This could mean that the earning and growth potential for the startup that you grew into this successful company could end up being limitless, which is the goal of many entrepreneurs, to create a limitless, expirationless company that they can own forever and possibly even pass down through their family for generations. Companies like that are called unicorns. And a company does not become a unicorn until it's worth at least $1 billion with a B dollars. And the most successful and timeless unicorn companies go on to make hundreds of billions to sometimes even trillions of dollars. And that's when you start seeing entrepreneurs who created those companies or those startups that turned into companies, when you start seeing them getting the titles of the richest man or woman of this list or that list or this city or that country, or sometimes even the entire world, man. Many entrepreneurs who reach this level of success and wealth choose to dedicate their time and wealth to making the world better in some way or in multiple ways. So, I'm an entrepreneur. The startup that I created is called AddressMe. And AddressMe is a social network and mobile app, kind of like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and other social networks. But what makes AddressMe different from them is that those social networks allow you to scroll on the app and only connect with the other profiles that you see on the app. AddressMe is not only a social network to connect and keep in touch with people that you come across while scrolling in our app, but AddressMe is also a tool that you can use to connect safely with people that you cross paths with in the real world, day in and day out. So, say you're out somewhere, could be anywhere. You could be at the store, at the airport, at a party, at a friend's house, literally anywhere in the world. And you cross paths with somebody who catches your attention, but you might be nervous to approach that person because you don't really know what's going on with them, or they might be with a group of people, or whatever inconvenient circumstance is happening that's preventing you from being able to approach that person right there in that moment. There is a tool on AddressMe, on our mobile app, that when used properly will allow you to save that person's profile and send them a connection request later when you get home, or whenever you're out of that awkward situation or inconvenient situation, and you can go ahead and shoot them a connection request then, as long as that person also has the AddressMe app downloaded on their phone and are also a customer. And that's in addition to being able to scroll through the app and connect with different profiles that you come across in our app. The way I like to bring the idea full circle for folks is to point out that AddressMe is kind of like first base to third base and home plate that's already taking place in the world with companies and services like Uber and Lyft, where we regularly jump into cars with strangers and have them take us to private, personal homes and other destinations, or like services like Airbnb and these other house rental services where we invite paying strangers into our homes. So AddressMe is kind of like first base compared to third base and home plate that's already taking place in the world. We allow our customers to connect, meet, get to know, and network with the strangers before inviting them into our cars and into our homes. So yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. My startup is called AddressMe. It's still in development, meaning it's not out in the app stores yet, but I'm hoping to one day grow it into one of those timeless unicorn companies so that I can then use my time and wealth to support causes that I care about and making the world a better place. Who else am I? I am the founder of the Fluid Community. You can feel free to visit my channel and check out some other videos where I describe what the Fluid Community is all about. And while you're at it, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and turn on post notifications for updates when I upload more videos. But yeah, I founded the Fluid community because as the owner and the founder of my startup, AddressMe, I needed to be able to share truthfully why I created AddressMe and the problem that I created it to solve in my own life in order to be able to connect genuinely with my customer base. And the truth about why I created AddressMe is that most of the misconnections I experience personally happen with dudes that I cross paths with who either caught my attention or sometimes it seems mutual, but neither one of us ever end up speaking. And I'm sure that happens to a lot of dudes like me, in addition to millions of other unpredictable things that could pop up in everyday life, preventing all types of people from approaching the new people that they cross paths with for all types of different reasons. But nonetheless, I needed to be able to share my story publicly while also feeling like I'm being properly identified, not just on a basis of which gender does or doesn't catch my attention, but that I'm identified in a way that aligns with what I believe about myself and people like me. The things that I value for myself, like privacy and masculinity, and I refuse to compromise on my beliefs of who I know that I am and the respect that I know that I deserve as a man in order to sell a product. So it became necessary for me to create the Fluid community for people like myself. I'm not gay, and the Fluid community is a separate community from the LGBTQ community. This is not the LGBTQFIA community. This is not that. The Fluid community is our own separate deal, and it's necessary. It's necessary for it to be that way because my identity doesn't align with what works for their community. Gay people have more vibrant personalities, and they prefer to live out loud and approach life from that perspective and that mindset. And more power to them, man. Like, I encourage it. It just doesn't resonate with me. I encourage everybody to live their best life, H&R. Live your life, love the life you live, regardless of who you piss off in the process, man. Live your life, show up authentically as you are. Whatever that is for you. You might, I don't know, whatever that, people do all type of different things, man. But just be yourself, basically, unapologetically. That's my motto. But, yeah, it's different. Let me see. So yeah, gay people have more vibrant personalities and they prefer to live out loud. But I personally prefer my privacy. And I have no desire to be anything but masculine. And I'm not trans. I was born a guy. So there are crucial differences in beliefs, values, and self-identity that don't align between the two communities. And what works for the LGBT community works for them. And what works for the Fluid community works for us. So in order to fully embody the role of founder and CEO of AddressMe, it became necessary for the Fluid community to exist. And finally, who I am and the title I've been fortunate to retain on my journey with the H&R and the Fluid community and AddressMe is an anointed and appointed prophet of the one and only Most High God. what does an anointed prophet do, Vinny? An anointed prophet is a person who is ordained and appointed by God to teach or proclaim God's will throughout his kingdom here on earth. There are different kinds of prophets with different skill sets, gifts, and abilities that they use to proclaim God's will and to teach his decrees for his kingdom here on earth to all of his children, to all the people. The gift that God blessed me with is vision. So, I am what you would call a seer prophet. That's S-E-E-R. Meaning that God has gifted me with the ability to see what the future holds. So, the new H&R movement and culture, the AddressMe social connection mobile app that's in development, the new fluid community I founded and created that didn't exist before. These are all examples of visions that God has given me to teach, proclaim, and bring about into reality in furtherance of the future that he is currently creating throughout the world, along with other people that he has gifted, ordained, and appointed to play their specific roles in creating this new future. And you didn't ask, but yes, everything I'm creating and bringing about into the world is provided by, supported, stamped, and approved by all of our Heavenly Father, the God Almighty himself, in accordance with his will for the world, to include the fluid community. And as a prophet of God, I also have disciples who follow, learn from, and report to me in the work that we're doing collectively to usher in God's will. Their proper title is disciples, but they're honestly more like my brothers, or you could even say like my sons. Some of my disciples might fit the visual stereotypes of what some people might think about when they see someone that they believe is from the streets. And like I said, we do come from very humble beginnings, but please don't be alarmed. Think of us as more of a brotherhood that uses our influence in the streets for good, to share our testimonies of healing and growth, and to proclaim that if God can save us, then he can save others that's caught up in the street life too. Which is another vision that God has instilled within me as his seer, to bring about his plans for providing education, assistance, and some much needed, long overdue healing and other opportunities to the people of marginalized communities around the world. And my disciples can't teach others like them if they never walked that road themselves. So, Vinny Williams is a prophet of God, ordained and appointed to teach people about God's ways, about his glory, and about how he saved me and how he can save you. And a seer chosen by God to create the H&R, AddressMe, and the fluid community, among other things, and to play my very small role in bringing about the future that God has in mind in accordance with his will. So if that interests you, man, like I said, feel free to like this video, share, subscribe, turn on post notifications to get more updates. And yeah, that's who Vinny Williams is, man. Y'all be safe today. Stay out the way. Take everything one step at a time, one day at a time. Focus on finding yourself and finding your purpose. I love you. King B, H&R.